the cardboard box felt less like a temporary inconvenience and more like a cruel punchline to a joke I never wanted to be part of. Home sweet cardboard box, I muttered to myself, the words echoing in the hollow emptiness of my, well, let's just call it a mobile dwelling. Okay, fine, it was my car. A 2003 Honda Civic with more mileage than a long-haul trucker and a backseat that smelled vaguely of stale French fries and regret. This wasn't exactly how I envisioned my life turning out. Just a few weeks ago, I had a somewhat steady job as a barista, a slightly less leaky apartment, and a mostly functioning social life. Now, now I was officially homeless, unemployed, and about as popular as a tax audit. But hey, I told myself, staring up at the water-stained roof of my Civic, at least I have my health. Except for the persistent cough I developed from sleeping in a drafty car, the gnawing hunger pangs from skipping meals, and the growing suspicion that my left foot was going numb. The irony wasn't lost on me. While I was playing Tetris with my meager belongings, trying to create a semi-comfortable sleeping arrangement in the back seat, my dear sister Olivia was probably sipping champagne and trying on diamond tiaras. Yes, that's right, tiaras. Apparently, when your fiancé is the heir to a banana empire, you can afford to be a little extra. Olivia's engagement party was this weekend, and a lavish affair at some ridiculously overpriced hotel, complete with ice sculptures, a live band, and enough caviar to feed a small country. I'd received an invitation, of course, not that I was actually invited. It was more of a look how fabulous we are and how pathetic you are in comparison kind of invitation. My parents, bless their oblivious hearts, had called to remind me about the party. Oh, sweetie, Mom had chirped, we're so excited. Olivia's going to look absolutely stunning. You simply must come. Actually, I'd replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm, I'm a little busy this weekend. I have a hot date with a dumpster behind a Denny's. Black tie, optional. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, in a tone usually reserved for discussing unpleasant bodily functions, Mom had said, Oh, Harper, you're just being silly. You know you're always welcome to stay with us. Right, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. Cram myself into their perfectly manicured guest room, listen to Olivia gush about her wedding plans, and pretend that I wasn't a complete and utter failure in their eyes. No thanks. I'd rather take my chances with the dumpster. But here's the thing. I wasn't going to let this break me. I wasn't going to wallow in self-pity and let my family's indifference define me. I was going to figure this out. I was going to find a job, a place to live, and a way to prove to myself and to them that I was more than just the forgotten daughter. Okay, so maybe I didn't have a fairy godmother or a magic wand, but I had something just as powerful, a healthy dose of cynicism, a stubborn refusal to give up, and a really, really good parking spot. All right, Harper, I said to myself, taking a deep breath and surveying my cardboard kingdom. Time for plan A, or maybe plan B, or whatever plan involves finding a bathroom and a decent cup of coffee. This was my life now, and I was going to make the most of it, even if it meant sleeping in a car and showering at a truck stop. The smell hit me first, a potent mix of frying bacon, burnt coffee, and industrial-strength disinfectant that could probably strip paint off a car. Ah, the sweet aroma of gainful employment, or at least the closest I was going to get to it at the moment. Another day, another dollar, I muttered, tying on my apron with a flourish. Or, another $5 if I'm lucky. At least the coffee's strong enough to wake the dead. Maybe I should start charging for resurrection services. The Greasy Spoon wasn't exactly the Ritz. It was the kind of place where the coffee came in chipped mugs, the napkins were suspiciously thin, and the daily special was whatever hadn't expired yet. But it was a job, and right now, a job was a lifeline. Harper, honey, table 3 needs a refill. Betty, the owner and resident matriarch of the Greasy Spoon, barked from behind the counter. Betty was a force of nature, a woman who could wield a spatula like a weapon and had a voice that could curdle milk at 50 paces. I wouldn't have it any other way. I plastered on my best customer service smile, which admittedly was more of a grimace, and headed towards table 3. 2 elderly ladies, their hair piled high in gravity-defying bouffants, were engaged in a heated debate about the merits of different brands of prune juice. More coffee, ladies? I asked, trying to sound cheerful. Oh, Harper, dear, one of them chirped. You're a lifesaver. This coffee is the only thing keeping me going. My Herbert, bless his soul, he used to say, and then she launched into a 10-minute monologue about her late husband's bowel movements. I nodded sympathetically, resisting the urge to check my watch or bang my head against the nearest wall. Customer service, people, it's a tough gig. The Greasy Spoon had its own unique ecosystem. There were the regulars, like Old Man Fitzwilliam, who always ordered the same burnt toast and black coffee, and Mrs. Higgins, who believed that the diner was a front for an alien invasion. Then there were the transients, the truckers, the tourists, and the occasional lost soul who wandered in looking for a cheap meal and a temporary escape from reality. I'd become a sort of amateur anthropologist, observing their habits, their quirks, their little dramas. It was strangely comforting, this microcosm of humanity, this greasy spoon Noah's Ark. They were my people now, these misfits and eccentrics. They didn't care that I was living in my car. They didn't judge my chipped nail polish or my questionable fashion choices. They just accepted me, coffee stains and all. "Hey, Harper!" a voice boomed from the doorway. It was Big Tony, a trucker with a handlebar mustache and a heart of gold. "You look like you could use a pick-me-up. Pie's on me today." "Tony, you're an angel," I said, my heart warming. "Apple or cherry?" "Both," he winked. "You deserve it." And maybe I did. Maybe we all did. These denizens of the Greasy Spoon, clinging to our coffee mugs and our shared humanity in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. We were the underdogs, the forgotten ones, the ones who slipped through the cracks. But here, in this Greasy Spoon haven, we were home. The bell above the diner door jingled, announcing the arrival of another customer. I barely looked up, assuming it was just Old Man Fitzwilliam back for his third cup of coffee and a side of existential dread. But then I heard his voice, and my head snapped up faster than a meerkat on Red Bull. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a smooth baritone that seemed out of place amongst the clatter of dishes and the sizzle of the grill. "Is this seat taken?" He gestured towards the empty stool next to a trucker, who was currently engaged in a fierce battle with a plate of gravy-laden fries. I took him in, this unexpected visitor to our Greasy Spoon haven. He was tall, with the kind of effortless posture that suggested years of yoga, or maybe just really good genes. His hair was a dark, artfully tousled mess, and his eyes were the color of warm honey, the kind that made you want to confess your deepest secrets and then ask for his recipe for homemade granola. He looked like he belonged on a movie poster, not in a place where the special was mystery meat and the napkins were suspiciously thin. And then he smiled. Game over. My carefully constructed wall of cynicism crumbled like a cheap cookie. "Nope, it's all yours," I said, my voice a little breathless. "Just try not to make eye contact with the gravy. It's got a mind of its own." He chuckled, a low rumble that sent a shiver down my spine. "Duly noted. So what's a girl like you doing in a place like this?" "Serving coffee and dispensing life advice? You want cream and sugar with that existential crisis?" I retorted, grabbing a mug. His smile widened. "You're quick. I like that. Years of deflecting unwanted advances from truckers with questionable hygiene will do that to you," I said deadpan. He raised an eyebrow, a playful glint in his eyes. "And here I was hoping to impress you with my extensive knowledge of napkin origami. Sorry, I'm holding out for a man who can fold a fitted sheet." He laughed, a genuine, hearty laugh that filled the diner. It was the kind of laugh that made you want to laugh along, even if you didn't know what was so funny. "You're something else," he said, shaking his head. "I'm Ethan, by the way." "Harper," I replied, meeting his gaze. "And for the record, I can fold a fitted sheet. But I'm not telling you my secret." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Now I'm really intrigued. The conversation flowed easily, effortlessly. We talked about everything and nothing, from the questionable quality of the diner coffee to the meaning of life. He was witty, intelligent, and surprisingly down to earth. He listened intently, his eyes sparkling with amusement, and he actually seemed interested in what I had to say. It was a refreshing change from the usual grunts and leers I received from most of the male clientele. As he was leaving, he paused, his hand lingering on the counter. "You know," he said, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You're wasted here, Harper." I scoffed. "Thanks, I think. But unless you're offering me a job as your personal napkin folder, I'm pretty much stuck here. Or, he smiled, a hint of mystery in his eyes. Maybe I have something better in mind. And with that, he was gone, leaving me with a stack of dirty dishes, a racing heart, and a feeling that my life was about to take a very unexpected turn. An audition? I choked on my coffee, the lukewarm liquid dribbling down my chin. Me? An actress? Right. Next, you'll be telling me I'm secretly a princess and my long-lost tiara is in the lost and found. Ethan, perched on the diner stool, like a ridiculously handsome gargoyle, just smiled. I'm serious, Harper. You have something special. A spark, a presence. I snorted. A presence? I mostly have a presence of mind to avoid the expired milk in the fridge. He leaned in, his eyes twinkling. Don't sell yourself short. I'm a film director, Harper. I know talent when I see it. A film director? Of course he was. Because why wouldn't a hotshot Hollywood director with a smile that could melt glaciers be hanging out in a greasy spoon diner in the middle of nowhere? This had to be some kind of elaborate prank. Maybe I was being punked. Was Ashton Kutcher going to jump out from behind the pie display any minute now? And what exactly would I be auditioning for? I asked, my voice dripping with skepticism. The role of the sassy waitress who serves you coffee and stale pie? Actually, he said, pulling a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, I'm casting for a new film, a drama, and there's a character in it, a supporting role, but a pivotal one that I think you'd be perfect for. He slid the paper across the counter. It was a scene from the script, a dialogue between two women, filled with raw emotion and vulnerability. I skimmed the lines, a strange feeling stirring in my gut. It was like recognition, like I knew these characters, knew their pain, their longing. This is... I began, then stopped, unsure how to articulate the strange sensation that was washing over me. Intriguing? Ethan supplied, his voice gentle. Yeah, I breathed. Intriguing. He was right. It was intriguing. And terrifying. And maybe, just maybe, the kind of crazy, impossible opportunity that I desperately needed. The internal debate raged within me. On one hand, this was insane. Me? An actress? I had zero experience, zero training, and a wardrobe that consisted mostly of stained t-shirts and jeans with questionable holes. On the other hand, what did I have to lose? My life was already a dumpster fire. Maybe this was a chance to douse the flames with something a little more exciting. A memory flickered in my mind. A long-forgotten afternoon in high school when I'd played the lead in the school play. I'd been terrified, but once I stepped onto the stage, something had shifted. The fear had melted away, replaced by a sense of freedom, of exhilaration. I'd been good, really good. The applause, the cheers, the feeling of embodying another person, another life. It had been intoxicating, but that was a lifetime ago. A different Harper, a Harper who still had dreams, who still believed in possibilities. What if? The question whispered in my mind, a tiny spark of hope igniting in the ashes of my cynicism. What if this wasn't a joke? What if Ethan saw something in me, some hidden talent, some dormant potential? What if this was my chance to escape the greasy spoon, the cardboard castle, the crushing weight of my family's indifference? Okay, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Okay, I'll audition. Ethan's smile was blinding. I knew you'd say that. And in that moment, as I looked into his warm, honey-colored eyes, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The greasy spoon faded into a blur of greasy smells and disgruntled customers as I walked, practically skipping, towards my cardboard castle. Ethan had given me the address, a nondescript building downtown, a world away from the faded vinyl booths and chipped mugs of my current reality. He'd also given me a time tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m. sharp. 2 p.m., I muttered to myself, unlocking my car and sliding into the driver's seat. That gives me approximately 24 hours to transform myself from a coffee-stained waitress into a credible actress. No pressure. My reflection in the rearview mirror was less than encouraging. Dark circles under my eyes, courtesy of the world's most uncomfortable car seat. hair that resembled a bird's nest after a hurricane, and a wardrobe that screamed, "I gave up on life sometime around last Tuesday." "Okay, universe," I said, raising my fist in a mock salute. "You have my attention. Let's see what you've got. But if this is some elaborate prank, I'm coming back to haunt you as a particularly annoying ghost, the kind that hides your keys and changes the channel right before the good part." A surge of adrenaline coursed through me, a strange mix of desperation and exhilaration. What was I doing? This was insane. I was a waitress, not an actress. I belonged behind a counter, slinging coffee and sarcastic remarks, not in some fancy audition room trying to impress a bunch of Hollywood types. But then I thought of Olivia, her perfectly manicured nails, and her condescending smirk. I thought of my parents, their blind adoration of their golden child, and their utter indifference to my struggles. I thought of the cardboard box, the leaky roof, the gnawing emptiness in my stomach. And something inside me snapped. "Screw it," I said, a grin spreading across my face. "I'm doing this. I'm going to that audition, and I'm going to blow them away. Or at least I'm going to make them laugh. Either way, it's got to be better than another night in this tin can." The first order of business was a makeover. Not the kind that involved expensive salons and designer clothes, but the kind that involved a truck stop bathroom, a bottle of borrowed shampoo, and a lot of creative improvisation. I scrubbed away the grime, tamed the bird's nest, and even managed to find a semi-presentable outfit at the bottom of my duffel bag. Next, I needed to work on my acting skills. The scene Ethan had given me was short, but intense. It required vulnerability, raw emotion, a depth of feeling that I wasn't sure I could access. But as I reread the lines, a flicker of recognition sparked within me. I knew these women, their pain, their longing. I'd felt those emotions myself, buried deep beneath layers of sarcasm and cynicism. I spent the rest of the day practicing, pacing the parking lot, muttering the lines under my breath. I channeled my frustration, my anger, my fear, pouring it all into the words on the page. And as I did, something shifted within me, a sense of purpose, of possibility. By the time the sun began to set, I was ready, or as ready as I was ever going to be. This was it, my leap of faith, my chance to rewrite the script of my life. "Okay, universe," I whispered, looking up at the darkening sky. "Show me what you've got." The building was a stark contrast to the Greasy Spoon, gleaming chrome and glass, a lobby that smelled vaguely of expensive perfume and desperation. I clutched the crumpled script in my hand, my knuckles white. This was it, the moment of truth, or more likely the moment of, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" The waiting room was a chaotic symphony of nervous energy. Aspiring actresses, all cheekbones and perfect hair, paced the floor like caged tigers. They were a blur of designer labels and practiced smiles, each one radiating an aura of confidence that made me feel like I'd accidentally wandered into a beauty pageant. "Everyone else looks like they've been prepping for this since they were in diapers," I muttered to myself, trying to discreetly wipe a coffee stain off my shirt. I, on the other hand, just spilled coffee on my shirt and my mascara is probably running down my face, method acting at its finest. I tried to blend in, to become invisible. I slouched in my chair, hoping to disappear into the background. But it was no use. I stuck out like a sore thumb, a stray cat in a room full of pedigreed Persians. A woman with a clipboard and a permanent frown materialized in front of me. "Name?" she barked. "Harper Lane," I mumbled, shrinking under her withering gaze. "Lane?" she scoffed, scanning her list. "You're not on the schedule." I, I'm here for the..." I stammered, my voice trailing off. "The what?" she snapped, her frown deepening. The audition," I whispered, feeling like a small child caught stealing cookies. "The audition?" she repeated, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're here to audition for Ethan Caldwell's new film?" I nodded miserably, bracing myself for the inevitable rejection. "And you just showed up?" she continued, her voice rising in disbelief. "No agent? No headshot? No resume?" I, uh, I stammered, feeling my face burn with shame. "I have a resume. It's just mostly about my extensive experience in the food service industry," She stared at me for a moment, her expression a mixture of amusement and pity. Then, with a sigh, she scribbled something on her clipboard. Fine, she said, handing me a number. Wait your turn, and try not to touch anything. I retreated to a corner, clutching my number like a lifeline. The waiting room was a swirling vortex of anxiety and ambition. I watched the other actresses, their practiced smiles and rehearsed lines, and felt a wave of self-doubt wash over me. What was I doing here? I didn't belong in this world. I was just a waitress with a crumpled script and a desperate hope for something more. But then I remembered Ethan's words. You have something special? And for a moment, just a moment, I allowed myself to believe him. Maybe I did have something special. Maybe, just maybe, I could pull this off. Okay, Harper, I whispered to myself, taking a deep breath. Time to show them what you've got, or at least fake it till you make it. Harper Lane! A voice called out, snapping me out of my anxious reverie. It was my turn. I stumbled to my feet, my legs feeling like overcooked spaghetti. The audition room was small and dimly lit, a stark contrast to the bright, chaotic waiting area. Ethan sat at a table with two other people, their faces obscured by the shadows. I felt a surge of panic. This was it. No more hiding in the corner. Time to sink or swim. Harper, Ethan said, his voice warm and reassuring. It's good to see you again. Ready to give this a shot? I nodded, my throat suddenly dry. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the butterflies doing the tango in my stomach. I focused on the script, the words a lifeline in the sea of uncertainty. Whenever you're ready, one of the shadowy figures said. I closed my eyes for a moment, picturing the scene, the characters, the emotions, and then I began. The words flowed out of me, hesitant at first, then gaining momentum. I was no longer Harper, the waitress with the coffee-stained shirt and the questionable life choices. I was Sarah, the heartbroken woman, pouring her soul out to her estranged sister. The pain, the longing, the regret. It all came pouring out, raw and unfiltered. I felt a strange detachment from my own body, as if I were watching myself from a distance. The script was just words on a page, until it wasn't. Suddenly, it was like someone had opened a window in my soul and all the pent-up feelings came pouring out. Who knew I was such a drama queen? I lost myself in the scene, the words echoing in the small room. I felt the tears prickling my eyes, the lump forming in my throat. I was no longer acting. I was living, breathing, feeling. And then it was over. Silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. I looked up, my vision blurry with unshed tears. The three figures at the table were staring at me, their expressions unreadable. Ethan broke the silence, his voice hushed with awe. Harper, he said, that was extraordinary. The other two figures murmured their agreement, their faces now visible in the dim light. They were both women, their eyes wide with surprise and admiration. Where did that come from? One of them asked, her voice trembling. I shrugged, feeling a wave of self-consciousness wash over me. I don't know. I just felt it. Ethan smiled, a slow, genuine smile that made my heart skip a beat. You have a gift, Harper, a raw, undeniable talent. I blushed, unsure how to respond to such praise. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, terrifying. Thank you, I mumbled, feeling a surge of gratitude for this unexpected validation. Don't thank me, Ethan said, his eyes sparkling. Thank yourself. You earned this. As I walked out of the audition room, my legs still shaky, I felt a sense of accomplishment I'd never experienced before. I'd taken a leap of faith, and I'd landed on my feet. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new, something amazing. The waiting room, with its manicured actresses and practiced smiles, suddenly seemed less intimidating. I walked out of the building, head held high, a newfound confidence radiating from within. The world seemed brighter, the possibilities endless. I had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, I could escape the greasy spoon, the cardboard castle, the shadow of my family's indifference. A hope that I could create a new life for myself, a life filled with passion, purpose, and maybe even a little bit of stardom. Life, it seemed, had decided to swap out its usual rusty bicycle for a Ferrari on a racetrack. One minute I was scraping burnt toast off plates, the next I was signing a contract that had more zeros than my bank account, which, admittedly, wasn't a high bar to clear. "Congratulations, Harper," Ethan said, his smile almost as dazzling as the flash of the photographer's camera. "Welcome to the world of make-believe." Make-believe was right. This whole experience felt surreal, like I'd stumbled into an alternate dimension where waitresses with coffee-stained shirts magically transformed into actresses. I was whisked away from the greasy spoon and thrust into a whirlwind of fittings, meetings, and coaching sessions. "Darling, you simply must try this shade of lipstick," a woman with a voice like wind chimes and hair like spun gold declared, holding up a tube of something that looked suspiciously like it belonged in a vampire's makeup kit. "Does it come in 'I'd rather be napping'?" I mumbled, stifling a yawn. Wardrobe fittings were a whole other level of bizarre. I was draped in the silks and sequins, squeezed into dresses that cost more than my car, and forced to wear shoes that could double as instruments of torture. "Honey, you need to own this look," a stylist with cheekbones that could cut diamonds proclaimed, adjusting a dress that felt like it was trying to suffocate me. "I'd rather own a pair of comfortable shoes," I muttered under my breath. Acting coaches were a mixed bag. Some were genuinely helpful, offering insightful advice and encouragement. Others were more interested in dissecting my childhood traumas than improving my line delivery. "Tell me, Harper," one particularly intense coach with a penchant for dramatic pauses inquired, "what is it about your relationship with your mother that makes you recoil from physical affection?" "Mostly the fact that she once tried to give me a perm using a home kit and a hairdryer," I deadpanned. The sudden influx of attention was both flattering and bewildering. Journalists clamored for interviews, photographers stalked my every move, and people I'd never met suddenly wanted to be my best friend. "Harper, darling, you're a natural," a reporter with a microphone the size of a baseball bat gushed. "Tell us, what's it like to be Hollywood's newest rising star?" "It's mostly a lot of people telling me what to wear and how to smile," I said, trying to stifle a yawn. "But the coffee's better than at the Greasy Spoon." The irony wasn't lost on me. Suddenly, everyone was interested in what I had to say. Where were all these people when I was living in my car? Oh, right, probably at Olivia's engagement party. Figures. But even with all the chaos and superficiality, there was a part of me that was genuinely enjoying the ride. I was learning new things, meeting fascinating people, and discovering a part of myself that I'd long forgotten. And as I stood on set, the lights shining down, the cameras rolling, I felt a surge of exhilaration. This was my moment, my chance to shine, my chance to prove to the world and to myself that I was more than just the forgotten daughter. The movie set was a world unto itself, a chaotic, organized chaos where dreams were built with plywood and duct tape, and emotions were manufactured under the watchful eye of the camera. It was overwhelming at first, a sensory overload of lights, sounds, and personalities. But amidst the controlled chaos, I found something unexpected, a sense of belonging. My co-stars were a motley crew. There was Marcus, the seasoned veteran with a twinkle in his eye and a repertoire of off-color jokes. There was Maya, the rising starlet with a heart of gold and a social media following that could rival a small country. And there was Ben, the shy newcomer with a talent that burned bright beneath his quiet demeanor. We were an unlikely family, thrown together by chance and a shared passion for storytelling. We spent long hours together, rehearsing lines, sharing meals, and navigating the ups and downs of movie making. We celebrated each other's successes, commiserated over setbacks, and offered a shoulder to cry on when the pressure became too much. "Hey, Harper," Maya said one afternoon, her voice gentle. "You okay? You seem a little down." We were sitting in her trailer, a haven of peace amidst the chaos of the set. I'd been feeling overwhelmed, the weight of my newfound fame pressing down on me. "I'm fine," I mumbled, trying to force a smile. "Just a little tired." Maya raised an eyebrow, her eyes full of concern. "You can talk to me, you know, we're friends." And that's when the dam broke. I spilled everything, the eviction, the cardboard castle, the family that had forgotten me. Maya listened patiently, her hand resting on mine. "Harper," she said when I was finished, "you're not alone. You have us now." And she meant it. They all did. Marcus with his gruff affection and endless supply of dad jokes, Ben with his quiet support and encouraging smiles, and Maya with her infectious laughter and unwavering belief in me. These people, they actually saw me. They didn't care about my last name or my bank account. They cared about me. It was weirdly refreshing. We celebrated birthdays with impromptu cake fights, mourned breakups with karaoke nights, and shared secrets whispered in the quiet corners of the set. We were a family, bound not by blood, but by something much stronger, a shared experience, a mutual respect, and a love for the craft that brought us together. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of filming, Marcus pulled me aside. "You know, Harper," he said, his voice gruff but kind. "You're one of the good ones. Don't let this town change you." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I won't, Marcus, I promise." And I meant it. I wouldn't let the glitz and glamour of Hollywood blind me to what truly mattered: the connections, the friendships, the love that I'd found in this unlikely place. I had a new family now, a family that accepted me for who I was, flaws and all. And that, I realized, was worth more than all the fame and fortune in the world. Ethan was an enigma wrapped in a riddle, sprinkled with a dash of movie magic. He was undeniably attractive, with that whole brooding artist vibe going on, but there was more to him than just good looks. He was intelligent, witty, and surprisingly down to earth for a guy who spent his days orchestrating scenes of fictional drama. Our conversations were a constant source of amusement. We'd banter back and forth, trading witty remarks and sarcastic observations. He seemed to genuinely enjoy my dry humor and my tendency to challenge his opinions. "You know," he said one day, leaning against a camera dolly with a thoughtful expression, "you're the only person who's ever argued with me about the merits of different brands of popcorn." "Well, obviously," I retorted, "you're clearly mistaken about the superiority of kettle corn. It's all about the buttered, salty goodness." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You're incorrigible." "That's what my parole officer said," I deadpanned. But beyond the banter, there was a deeper connection. We talked about books, movies, music, life. He listened intently, his eyes sparkling with interest, and he always seemed to know the right thing to say, whether it was a witty retort or a thoughtful observation. "You have a unique perspective, Harper," he said one evening as we were watching the sunset from the rooftop of his apartment building. "You see the world differently." "I blame the greasy spoon," I said, taking a sip of my wine. "Years of observing humanity at its finest, or at least its most caffeinated, will do that to you." He smiled, his eyes reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun. "There's a depth to you, Harper, a complexity that most people miss." I blushed, flustered by his compliment. "Don't get all mushy on me, Caldwell. It's not your style." He laughed, a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. "You're right. I'll stick to brooding and enigmatic." But there were moments, fleeting glimpses beneath the surface, that hinted at something more. A lingering touch, a stolen glance, a sudden silence that spoke volumes. One day, on set, I was struggling with a particularly emotional scene. I couldn't seem to access the raw vulnerability that the character demanded. Ethan, sensing my frustration, pulled me aside. "Harper," he said, his voice gentle, "it's okay to let your guard down. Trust yourself. Trust the emotions." He placed his hand on my arm, a simple gesture of comfort, but it sent a jolt of electricity through me. I looked up at him, his eyes filled with concern and something else, something that made my heart race. I don't know if I can do this," I whispered, my voice trembling. He squeezed my arm reassuringly. "You can. I believe in you." And in that moment, surrounded by the controlled chaos of the movie set, I felt a connection with Ethan that went beyond director and actress. It was a connection that scared me, excited me, and made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. He's smart, he's funny, and he actually listens to what I have to say. Plus, he has this whole charming director thing going on, which is surprisingly effective. I'm doomed. The line between fiction and reality blurred. One minute I was playing a character falling in love, the next I was living it. The stolen glances, the lingering touches, the charged silences, it was all there, simmering beneath the surface of our director-actress dynamic. It happened during a night shoot. We were filming a scene in a dimly lit park. The only sounds the chirping of crickets and the hushed whispers of the crew. Ethan was giving me notes, his voice low and intimate as he leaned in close. I could feel his breath on my cheek, the warmth of his body radiating against mine. And then it happened. He kissed me. It wasn't a Hollywood kiss, all fireworks and sweeping music. It was hesitant, tentative. A question more than a statement. But it was enough. Enough to send a shockwave through me. Enough to make me forget my lines. Enough to make me realize that this was more than just a fleeting attraction. We pulled away, both of us breathless, our eyes locked in a silent conversation. I began, then stopped, unsure what to say. I know, he whispered, his thumb gently tracing the outline of my lips. Me too. And that was it. The floodgates opened, the stolen kisses in between takes, the late-night talks that stretched into the early hours of the morning, the shared laughter and whispered secrets. We were falling in love, fast and hard, amidst the controlled chaos of the movie set. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at the same time. I'd never allowed myself to be this vulnerable, this open. My past experiences had taught me to keep my guard up, to protect my heart at all costs. But with Ethan, it was different. He saw through my defenses, my sarcasm, my cynicism. He saw the real me, the scared, insecure girl hiding beneath the facade. "You're beautiful," he whispered one night, his fingers tracing the lines of my face. Inside and out? I laughed, trying to deflect the compliment. "Don't get all sappy on me, Caldwell. It's not your style." But his words resonated deep within me, planting a seed of doubt in my carefully constructed wall of self-deprecation. Maybe I was beautiful. Maybe I was worthy of love. But then the fear would creep in, whispering doubts in my ear. What if this was all a dream? What if I woke up back in my car, the cardboard castle my only reality? What if this fairy tale romance was just another illusion, a cruel trick of the Hollywood machine? "I'm falling for him," I confessed to Maya one afternoon, my voice barely above a whisper. Hard. And it scares the hell out of me. Maya smiled, her eyes full of understanding. "It's okay to be scared, Harper, but don't let fear stop you from experiencing something amazing." Her words gave me courage. I wouldn't let fear dictate my life. I would embrace this love, this unexpected gift, and see where it led me. And as I looked at Ethan, his eyes filled with warmth and affection, I knew that I was falling deeper with every passing day. This was more than just a fling, more than just an on-set romance. This was something real, something profound, something that had the power to change my life forever. The roar of the crowd was a physical thing, a tidal wave of noise and energy that threatened to sweep me away. Flashing lights assaulted my eyes, blinding and disorienting. Microphones were thrust in my face, questions fired at me like bullets. "Harper, Harper, over here!" What was it like working with Ethan Caldwell? "Are you and Ethan dating?" "What are you wearing?" My head spun. This was it. The premiere, the culmination of months of work, of blood, sweat, and tears, mostly mine, let's be honest. And here I was, standing on the red carpet, feeling like a deer caught in the headlights. "All these flashing lights are giving me a headache," I muttered under my breath, clinging to Ethan's arm for dear life. "I feel like I'm under a microscope. Please don't let me trip on the red carpet. Please don't let me say anything stupid. Please just let me survive this night." Ethan squeezed my hand reassuringly. "You've got this, Harper. Just breathe." Easy for him to say. He was used to this, the red carpets, the paparazzi, the relentless scrutiny of the media. For me, it was a whole new level of terrifying. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like a tiny insect pinned under a magnifying glass. I plastered on my best fake smile, the one I'd been practicing in the mirror for weeks. "Just keep moving," I told myself. "Smile, wave, and try not to vomit on anyone's shoes." The red carpet was a blur of faces and voices. I answered questions on autopilot, my mind a jumbled mess of anxieties and insecurities. The film was a joy to work on, I chirped, my voice sounding strangely robotic. Ethan is a brilliant director. And a ridiculously attractive man, but I kept that part to myself. "My dress is by..." I trailed off, desperately trying to remember the name of the designer. Someone famous, I'm sure. I stumbled over my words, my carefully rehearsed answers dissolving into a jumble of incoherent babble. I felt a blush creep up my neck, my palms sweating. This was a disaster. I was going to be the laughingstock of Hollywood. But then I saw him, Ethan, standing at the end of the red carpet, his eyes searching mine. He smiled, a warm, reassuring smile that cut through the noise and the chaos. And in that moment, the panic subsided. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked towards him, my head held high. "You were amazing," he whispered, pulling me into a hug. Absolutely radiant. I buried my face in his chest, inhaling his familiar scent, a mix of cologne and something uniquely Ethan. His arms tightened around me, a safe haven in this storm of attention. "I was a mess," I mumbled, my voice muffled against his shirt. "No, you weren't," he said, his voice firm. "You were perfect." And for a moment, I believed him. The red carpet, the flashing lights, the clamoring reporters, it all faded away. All that mattered was Ethan, his warmth, his support, his unwavering belief in me. The premiere itself was a blur. I sat in the darkness of the theater, my hand clasped in Ethan's, watching the movie unfold on the big screen. It was surreal, seeing myself up there, larger than life, my emotions laid bare for all to see. I cringed at my awkward moments, celebrated my small victories, and felt a surge of pride at being part of something so beautiful, so powerful. As the credits rolled and the lights came up, the applause was deafening. I stood beside Ethan, basking in the adulation of the crowd, a sense of accomplishment washing over me. I'd done it. I'd survived the premiere. And maybe, just maybe, I'd even impressed a few people along the way. But as I looked at Ethan, his eyes shining with pride and affection, I knew that the real victory wasn't the applause or the accolades. It was the love that we shared, a love that had blossomed amidst the chaos and the cameras, a love that had the power to outshine any spotlight. The morning after the premiere, I woke up to a world gone mad. My phone was exploding with messages. My social media accounts were flooded with notifications, and my face was plastered all over the internet. "Harper Lane, from waitress to wonder," one headline screamed. "Ethan Caldwell's muse, the breakout star you need to know," another declared. "Who is Harper Lane? Everything you need to know about Hollywood's newest it girl," yet another proclaimed. So, apparently, I was a thing now. People actually recognized me on the street. They wanted my autograph. They wanted to know what I had for breakfast. It was all very surreal. "This is insane," I said to Ethan, scrolling through my Instagram feed with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. "I have like 1 million new followers, and most of them seem to think I'm some kind of fashion icon." Ethan chuckled, his arm wrapped around my waist as we sat on the balcony of his apartment, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise. "Well, you did look stunning in that red dress." "It was trying to suffocate me," I grumbled, remembering the constricting fabric. "I'm pretty sure I lost circulation in my left arm." He laughed, his eyes twinkling. "You'll get used to it. Fame is a fickle mistress, but she can be fun if you know how to play the game." I wasn't sure I wanted to play any games. This whole fame thing was exhausting. The constant attention, the pressure to be perfect, the endless stream of interviews and appearances. It was all so superficial. But then I'd look at Ethan, his eyes filled with pride and admiration, and I'd remember why I was doing this. For him, for myself, for the chance to prove to the world and to my family that I was more than just the forgotten daughter. And as the weeks turned into months, I started to find my footing. I learned to navigate the red carpets, to handle the media, to use my newfound platform to speak out about things that mattered to me. I even started to enjoy the perks of fame. The designer clothes, the fancy restaurants, the invitations to exclusive events. But through it all, I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot the greasy spoon, the cardboard castle, the struggles that had shaped me, and I never forgot the people who had helped me along the way. Ethan, Maya, Marcus, Ben, and all the other misfits and dreamers who had welcomed me into their world. It happened on a quiet evening, after a long day of filming. We were at Ethan's apartment, curled up on the couch, watching an old movie. The rain was falling outside, a gentle patter against the windows, creating a cozy atmosphere. Ethan turned to me, his eyes soft and warm. "Harper," he said, his voice husky with emotion, "I love you. I love your wit, your intelligence, your strength. I love the way you make me laugh, the way you challenge me, the way you make me want to be a better man." My heart skipped a beat. I'd been waiting for this moment, dreading it, anticipating it. And now that it was here, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. Love, fear, excitement, disbelief. He got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. It was beautiful, a simple band with a single sparkling diamond. "Harper Lane," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Will you marry me?" And for the first time in a long time, I didn't have a sarcastic comment ready. I just said yes. The tears flowed freely as he slipped the ring on my finger. A perfect fit. We kissed, a long, slow kiss that sealed our fate, our future together. In that moment, all the doubts and fears faded away. I was loved, truly loved, for who I was, flaws and all. And as I looked at Ethan, my heart overflowing with happiness, I knew that I had found my home, my haven, my happily ever after. The Lane household was a temple of beige. Beige walls, beige carpets, beige furniture. Even the air seemed to have a beigeish tinge to it. It was the perfect backdrop for the Lane family, a picture of bland, upper-middle-class conformity. Olivia, the golden child, was sprawled on the beige sofa, flipping through a bridal magazine. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped impatiently against the glossy pages. "Mother," she whined, "do you think I should have lilies or hydrangeas for the centerpieces? Lilies are so classic, but hydrangeas are just so fluffy." Mrs. Lane, perched on the edge of a beige armchair, peered over her designer reading glasses. "Darling, I'm sure whatever you choose will be simply divine. You have such exquisite taste." Mr. Lane, hidden behind the beige folds of the newspaper, grunted in agreement. The doorbell chimed, a jarring interruption to their beige-infused existence. Mrs. Lane frowned. "Who could that be at this hour?" Olivia sighed dramatically. "Probably just another delivery. I swear, I've ordered half the contents of the internet for this wedding." The maid, a timid woman in a starched uniform, entered the room, a silver tray bearing a single envelope. "For Miss Harper," she announced, her voice barely above a whisper. Olivia snatched the envelope, her eyes widening as she examined the gold-embossed lettering. "Harper?" she scoffed. "Who would be sending her an invitation? And why is it so fancy?" She tore open the envelope, her expression shifting from amusement to confusion to utter disbelief. "Mother? Father?" she shrieked, her voice laced with panic. "You'll never guess what this is?" Mr. Lane lowered his newspaper, his brow furrowed in annoyance. "What is it, Olivia? Can't you see I'm trying to read?" "It's a wedding invitation," Olivia exclaimed, waving the invitation in the air. "Harper's getting married." "Harper," Mrs. Lane gasped, her hand fluttering to her chest. But she's nobody." "Not anymore, apparently," Olivia said, her voice laced with a hint of bitterness. "Look at this. It's at some fancy hotel in Hollywood. And the groom? Ethan Caldwell, the famous director." The invitation was like a tiny golden bomb that detonated in their perfectly curated world. Suddenly, Olivia's wedding, with its beige decor and predictable guest list, seemed about as exciting as a dentist appointment. Mr. and Mrs. Lane exchanged panicked glances. Their forgotten daughter, the one they dismissed and ignored, was now a famous actress, marrying a renowned director. The social implications were staggering. "We need to do something," Mrs. Lane declared, her voice laced with a newfound urgency. "We need to reestablish contact." Olivia, her own wedding suddenly overshadowed by her sister's unexpected success, nodded furiously. "Yes, we need to get back in her good graces. Imagine the connections, the parties, the—" Her voice trailed off, her eyes gleaming with opportunistic ambition. The Lane family, it seemed, had finally woken up to Harper's existence. But their motives were far from pure. The phone call started the next day. "Harper, darling, it's your mother. We're so thrilled for you. A wedding. How wonderful." "Harper, sweetheart, it's your father. We'd love to meet this Ethan fellow. He seems like quite the catch. Harper, it's Olivia. Remember me, your favorite sister? We should totally go dress shopping together. The messages flooded my inbox, a torrent of belated congratulations and thinly veiled attempts to rekindle a relationship they'd long abandoned. They're calling me now, I said to Ethan, rolling my eyes as I scrolled through the endless stream of messages. They're texting. They're even sending me friend requests on Facebook. Ethan chuckled, his arm wrapped around my waist as we sat on the beach, watching the waves roll in. Well, you are a celebrity now. It's to be expected. It's pathetic, I scoffed. Where were they when I was living in my car? When I was struggling to make ends meet? When I needed them the most? Ethan's expression softened. I know it hurts, Harper, but you don't need them anymore. You have me. You have your friends. You have a life that you built for yourself. He was right. I didn't need them. Their sudden interest in my life was nothing more than a desperate attempt to bask in the reflected glory of my success. They didn't care about me, about my happiness. They only cared about what I could do for them. I'm not going to fall for it, I said, my voice firm. I'm not going to let them back into my life. They had their chance, and they blew it. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. I'm proud of you, Harper. You're stronger than you think. And as I looked out at the ocean, the sun setting on the horizon, I knew that he was right. I was strong. I was resilient. I was Harper Lane, and I didn't need anyone's approval but my own.